Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have some updates to share about Russia's invasion and war in Ukraine. In a televised meeting with his defense minister, Putin called off the siege, the final siege, I should say, in Mariupol, citing the preservation of lives, because, that's what he's really worried about. The last of the known civilians in that city, as well as some Ukrainian troops, were trapped inside of an industrial plant, and they had estimated that they had days or possibly even not even hours left in which they could hold out before they were murdered by the Russian troops. Well, now Putin has told his troops to back off. And he praised his defense minister for, quote, liberating Mariupol, which is truly a sick joke, considering that the town's mayor says that the entire city has been, quote, wiped off the face of the planet. Basically, it's just been leveled. Russian forces utterly and completely decimated the entire city and murdered tens of thousands of civilians, residents who were living completely peacefully, completely happy before Russia's unprovoked invasion and attack. The next couple bits of news are the concerning part. Russia tested one of their new intercontinental ballistic missiles in what appeared to be like a veiled threat against those of us in the West. And then in a televised address to his citizens, Putin mentioned the test, and he said that the new missile has the, quote, highest tactical and technical characteristics and is capable of overcoming all modern means of anti-missile defense. It has no analogs in the world and won't have for a long time to come. This truly unique weapon will strengthen the combat potential of our armed forces, reliably ensure Russia's security from external threats, and provide food for thought for those who, in a heat of frenzied, aggressive rhetoric, try to threaten our country. So if that wasn't disturbing enough, though, Russian state TV actors, otherwise known as their news people, they issued another warning to the West. So there was a panel discussion on Russia One TV, and one of their show hosts stated that after defeating Ukraine, Russia was going to, quote, grind up citizens of NATO in a war against, quote, Europe and the world. Next up is news that Chechen fighters who are over there helping to slaughter Ukrainians on behalf of Russia, they're said to have shot and killed 3 Russian soldiers who rebelled and said that they didn't want to fight. So the soldiers allegedly had complained that they weren't receiving their payments. And they said that they wanted to put down their weapons. They were going to head home. Well, the Chechen soldiers murdered them. And Ukrainians who were lucky enough to survive Russia's massacre in Bucha are saying that the executions of the civilians in that city started after Chechen troops had arrived. In addition, you may have already heard that Russia has started officially their bombardment on the east portion of the country. They made the first strikes in the city of Lviv just days ago. And as we've seen with all of the other attacks, all of the other cities that they've bombed and sent their troops into in Ukraine, there were civilians who were callously killed in this city as well. But Putin has made it clear that he's still seeking regime change. So he said that he doesn't completely plan to abandon the fight in the capital city of Kyiv. And in addition to his murderous rampage in multiple cities, he has his troops now rounding up Ukrainians and deporting them to Russia. So this is according to the Daily Beast. They say that Russian forces are holding some 27,000 Ukrainians in camps near Mariupol. They say that they've taken away all of their documentation, they're fingerprinting all of them, and then they're screening them for their alliance to either Russia or Ukraine. And according to U.S. intelligence, they say that over 45,000 have already been deported to Russia. So, and it sounds honestly like they're the lucky ones, because the Daily Beast pointed out that the Russian soldiers, quote, tortured, beat, and raped Chechen civilians in filtration camps in Chechnya in 2000. And some of the people who were able to escape from those camps in 2000 said that many of the people there were, quote, disappeared by the Russian government. So they were never seen or heard from again. Yet here we are with Chechens now taking up arms on behalf of Putin. This is what happens when you don't know your history. It's unbelievable. But there's more news about Russian soldiers rebelling and talking shit about the failures of their country. So, for instance, in Dnipro, I think is how you pronounce it, the city council said that they were able to intercept calls made by Russian troops. And in one of them, they heard them talking about shooting their commanders. In one recording that was released by Ukraine, a Russian soldier complained about the commanders ordering them to shoot at civilians and then threatening the troops with desertion if they didn't follow those orders. And then he also complained, quote, "Our commanders, they got their provisions, cigarettes, food stuff. Do you know what they did? Our bosses fucked off and dumped everyone. I don't even know where they are." So they just ditched their soldiers and took off. Another intercepted recorded call was made from a Russian soldier. He was speaking with his mother, and he told her that some of the conscripts were so shaken by what they've witnessed, and he used that word, that they asked their relatives, they've reached out to relatives to ask them to hire prosecutors to try to get them out of the war. And this soldier who made the phone call, who was recorded, he asked his mother to do the same. And so she told him that she would look, she said, "Oh, our prosecutor is horrible, but I'll find someone." Possibly, though, the most damning of the many released calls now was from a husband to his wife. So in it, the Russian soldier told his wife that his fellow troops, the Russians, were responsible for bombing their own facility in the city of Kilmovo, and then blaming it on Ukraine. So you guys probably remember that everybody was saying that Ukraine finally bombed something in Russia on the border. Well, the soldier told his wife, quote, "That was ours fucking stuff up. It's necessary. They do that to provoke. We talked to the bosses and they said that's how it is." The same shit was happening in the Chechen war. They blew up apartments in Moscow as if it were terrorists. It was really the FSB. And then he went on to tell his wife that there was no way that the Ukrainians could have bombed that area because they weren't within a reasonable distance to reach that city. And he was saying to his wife that he was planning to say, "I'm not going any further. I refuse to take part in the war going forward." And the more disturbing news is that Russia is leaving thousands of their own dead troops behind. So the Ukrainians are using facial recognition software to identify them and then contact the families. So far, 582 families have been contacted. I have very mixed feelings about this. I mean, on the one hand, you don't want the Russian families to think that this is being done to taunt them or to be cruel in any way. But then on the other hand, you want to give these families closure, right? I mean, imagine your son going off to another country for a quote unquote special military operation, and then they just never return. And you have no idea where they are. You have no idea what happened to him. I mean, to never be able to give him a proper burial, that seems cruel as well. So I don't know if this is the right thing or the wrong thing to do. I mean, it could drive anger and resentment, or, it could wake these people up to what their leader is, quote unquote, leader is actually doing. Anyway, in other related news, the White House has said that more sanctions are coming, and then they're also pledging more money, more assistance. And according to immigration data, apparently over 5,000 Ukrainians have already been detained at US borders. And that was just in the month of March. So this is, by land, by sea, by air. In total, 5 million Ukrainians have now fled their country. And we're still seeing consequences for this war as well. So Wimbledon just announced that they've banned players from Russia and Belarus. Again, I don't know if I agree with this kind of stuff. I mean, I think it just helps to push Putin's narrative. It helps him to say, "See, they just hate the Russian people. They just hate you. And so they're just against us in general, blah, blah, blah. This is all their fault." which nothing could be farther from the truth. It's like saying that, people hated us because of Trump. No, they didn't hate Americans. They hated Trump. We hate Putin. We don't hate the Russian people. Anyway, legal experts now also are saying that the US has the authority to liquidate money that the Russian central bank placed in the US. This was in compliance with the foreign exchange reserve. So they have to have a certain number of dollars here in the US. And so they're saying that they could take that money that we've already seized, and then we could either give it to Ukraine or we could use it to help Ukraine rather than American tax dollars. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, the US currently holds $100 billion of Russia's money. And there's plenty of precedents for this type of asset seizure and reallocation. And this doesn't violate our Fifth Amendment because the legal experts point out that the asset seizure laws apply to persons and not foreign governments. Anyway, guys, as I hear more, I will let you know. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.